Sponsor a child from the Dogon villages today. They are the future healers, leaders and preservers of Kemetic traditions. Just like Prophet Nebnaba, these children of the Earth Center and our network of healers are being educated in local schools in addition to their indigenous cultural practices and traditions. This comprehensive education both positions them to inherit the work of their forefathers and mothers and continues bridging the gap between traditional and modern societies. So go ahead, support, find out more about our campaigns and donate by going to www.theearthcenter.org. Thank you.
Ojai Ujjayi, welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show. Today is the 5th of Penwenit, 422 of the Kemetic Siderian calendar, and this month is governed by the god Imen. Imen is the self-created, invisible god, and he's a warrior god that actually is very important in the keeping of the divine order. And as we said, is the hidden one. And anyone who functions that month, they know that they're very quiet people, but they're there. And Imen is actually one of the actual first Trinity that actually started off the existence as we know it to be. And so tonight's show is going to be hosted by
Metepiu Wimshire here.
And our next presenter is going to be KaSheta. Could you, KaSheta? Ujjayi Senti? Ujjayi, are you coming through? There's nothing coming through there, is there?
Ujjayi Hatani, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. Yeah, you just want to briefly just, declare who you are.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize we was live already.
Yeah.
Okay, Duawu, and yes, and Ujjayi to the blessed family again, and greetings to everyone listening in. My name is KaSheta per Nebfest.
Wow. And later on in the show, we're going to bring in our special guest, and we'll introduce him later on. For the moment, I first want to acknowledge the divine world, the ones who actually created the existence that enabled us to be here. And we also want to acknowledge the ancestors, the world of the dead. And our ancestors are the intermediate between the physical and the spiritual world. And as we know, really, right, there's nothing we can do without our ancestors. So we will continue acknowledge and give reverence to them. We also want to acknowledge Master Nebnaba Lumusa Nessebik. He's a Kemetic Dogon High Priest and Ela. And we'll give you a little bit more about Master Neba. But first, our temple is part of the Wasirian temple. And so we just want to give you a just brief overview of who are the Dogons. And we're going to go back, say, over 2,500 years ago. The Greeks and the Romans and the different invaders came in. They saw it on the continent of Merita, on Africa, as we would know it to be. What they came and saw was a civilization that was very high in spirituality. They had a culture, traditions, initiation programs and things where the knowledge was passed down. And so the invaders, at that time, the Kemetic civilization was, it was a place where we would say that was like the mystery school, meaning that's where people from all over the world would come to learn things, basically. And so, what they saw, the invaders, was, they could take this. And so in order for them to do that, they had to destroy what was already there, destroying their culture, their spiritual base, everything that kept them together as a civilization. And so hence came the migration during the invasion. And so the Dogons are the important bloodlines that the temples of the pharaohs at the time, they gave permission for those important bloodlines to migrate across the Sahara Desert there, and they basically settled on the edge of the Sahara there, like places like Benin, Togo, Mali, Burkina Faso. We hear of the Dogons in Mali, and so where we see those groups of people around that area there, they were Dogons, and they all came with different parts to the knowledge, like a little jigsaw puzzle, and that was how they were able to keep and to preserve the knowledge, to preserve its integrity. And that's how, through an initiation, that was one of the ways that it was done. Now, Yeah, so that's a bit how or who we deem to be the Dogons. Now, Master Naba himself, like from a very young age, basically he started school from about 8 years old. Master Naba, as he grew, he went further into university in Kenya, and he also was alongside colonial education. He was doing traditional education, like all the spiritual, like initiation, that kind of thing. And so Master Naba excelled to a level where he actually surpassed his teachers to become one of the highest priests in Omtam science. And Omtam science is the art of reading the Bayawali, the earth energy, the dialogue of energy, the earth energy, and translating it. So they learned the secret, the Gulmu people. This is where the tribe of Master Naba actually came from. They were better known for being able to interrogate the earth and submit to it. So he was a actual, as we said, master in the heart of Omtam science. Master Naba, he spoke about 13 different languages. He wrote about 25 different books, which some of them we're going to be mentioning later on in the show. He traveled to various different countries, over 100 and odd different countries, where he was kind of invited to speak on at spiritual events, being that he was very high in spirituality. And so Master Naba was a master in Egyptology. He was a master in hieroglyphics. He also studied alongside those, was a metaphysician and parapsychologist, so he knows about the heart of the science and of the mind. So, he was quite well balanced in his education. Master Naba realized that, he was an activist and he saw what was taking place in the world. And basically, Master Naba sought permission from the Gulmu Geomanchi kingship and the hierarchies and the divinities. So there he was given permission, and so his quest was to assist the Western world in changing the mindset and the mentality of how we think, the way that we behave, left to what's taking place in the world. We see how humanity again is leading back into self-destruction. So his goal was to try to change the mindset. And so in 1996, he ventured or embarked on a journey to the Western world here, and established the first temple in Chicago, which is presently the headquarters for the Earth Center. And then he went on to started off another one in New York and San Diego. After journeying back to Merita, where he set up another temple there, and in 2008, I think it is, Master Naba transition. The Earth Center is now run by Naba Edita Shimera, and he is the son of Master Naba. And the school now has grown to a level where there's about 10 to 11 schools. We have some in the USA, in Canada. We have schools here in the UK. We're privileged to have 2 schools here in the UK. One here in London and our sister temple in Coventry. And so the Earth Center basically consists of 3 branches, and my brother Sen Metepia, who here is going to give you a rundown of what comprises of the 3 branches within the Earth Center. Over to you, Sen.
Dwell Hattie. So, as Hatani has said, there are three branches that comprise the Earth Centre. So, the first branch is the School. So, the School is, as Hatani has described, the traditional Kemetic initiation has been held. It's been held for sort of 2,000 years or more. So what the School does is actually give people opportunity to actually take part in that initiation, get initiated in the traditional Kemetic initiation. So within the school, we have three classes that someone can take in the first level of initiation, which is called per rank. And per rank means the house of life. So when you come into initiation, you will start at the basic level, the first level, and then as you go on, as your studies go on, if you want to, you can go further and further. But initially, when you come into what we call the house of life per rank. The first class that we have within initiation is what we call the Medu. And the Medu is what's commonly referred to within the West as hieroglyphs, but traditionally called Medu. And Medu is the oldest language known to humanity, and it was the language that was given to humanity by the divine world. So when you enter this class, you will take part in the Medu, which is split into two. So we have what we call the technical class side of the class and the theory part of the class. So the technical side is where you learn how to read, write and speak Medu. And the Medu that we learn within initiation is what we call the Medu Mayit. And this is the language which the everyday person will speak in terms of Medu. And when you come into a class, you will go step by step. So you will learn step by step how to kind of write the Medu from start, from basics, how to speak, how to say the particular words, particular letters, through to understand how to compose sentences. So that's the Medu Mayit, the technical side. And the theory side is where you learn the idea around the language, because we understand that language carries the culture, it carries the concepts, it carries the values of a society. So when you come into the Medu class, theory class, you'll be learning all about the theory part, the importance of a language, and how the language is important for us in terms of connecting with both our ancestors and the divine world. The next class is the Katibi class. And Katibi, the Katibi class is where it focuses on the spiritual aspect of the initiation. So within the Katibi class, you will learn the spiritual prayers. So the spiritual prayers that we say go back to more than 45,000 years. So you'll learn those prayers. You'll learn how to purify yourself. So one of the things we are as initiates taught very early on is the importance of being clean when we go before the divine world and our ancestors. So you'll learn how to purify yourself. You'll learn how to kind of give your lamentations to your ancestors and your wishes to the divine world. You'll also learn what we would call the Katibi moves, which are currently called the yoga poses, but we would call them Katibi moves. So you will learn that within the Katibi class, and you'll also learn the holy days that we would perform every decan, which we commonly call a week, but we call it decan in terms of 10 days at decan. So that's the Katibi class. The next class is the Sunt class. The Sunt class focuses on natural healing. So within this class, you will learn how to heal yourself, understand the different body systems, how they function, how to diagnose yourself, also how to do what I think was mentioned a little bit earlier around the Biowelli readings. So within that class, that's the class that you'll learn how to interrogate the earth, start the process of understanding how to interrogate the earth as well. So the Sunt class, is focused on health, how to be a healer, the importance of being a healer, what it takes to be a healer, what the qualities of a healer is, and then you go step by step from there. So those are the three classes that you, as you go through initiations, you will learn. So that's the school. The next class, the next arm is the Firefly Productions, and Firefly Productions is responsible for all the publications that come out of the Earth Centre. So as mentioned earlier, we have a number of books, We have a number of what we call calendars, which we refer to as the sidereal calendars, which is the oldest calendar known to humanity. We have a number of posters, one of which is the Book of Divine Human Behaviours. I think I've got that the wrong way around. Great book of so the Code of Human Behaviour. Probably Catherine for that. So we have that, which is one of the tools that we use as initiates to guide us in terms of understanding what we can and can't do as initiates, and it keeps us on a path and disciplined in terms of how we function in our everyday lives. We also have a number of quarterly magazines, which we refer to as the Rising Firefly, and these are articles that are written by initiates focused on Kemetic culture, Kemetic traditions, but also a Kemetic viewpoint and reflection on what is happening in society from a Kemetic point of view. And within that Firefly as well, you would get the Biowali reading. So as we mentioned earlier, you can understand kind of your date of birth, the month you were born. There'll be readings in there that you can look at and see what's going, get an understanding of what's going on for you at that particular time. So as we understand, this is the kind of basic of the horoscope. So the Biowali readings is where you would interrogate the earth to understand what's going on for you and within that particular time space. So the Rising Firefly holds those Biowali readings, which you can read and reflect on in terms of your own time, your own date of birth, and your year of birth as well. We also have within the the Firefly, we also have a number of lectures from Master Naba. So we have a number of lectures, including the cosmogony, the ancestors, humanity and the ancestors, the family tree. So all the lectures that Master Naba has done, both on CD and DVD as well. So that's a little bit about the Firefly and the products we stock in the Firefly, one of which I will be reading a short chapter from later on this evening, which is the Philosophy Podium. So I'll be reading a chapter from there, and I'll just maybe touch on it a little bit more as when I start reading the chapter. And the final, the next arm is the Projects of Merita. So as mentioned earlier by Hattini, Master Naba was somebody who grew up in tradition. And what the Projects of Merita is aiming to do is to preserve and also promote those traditional families and individuals that live in traditional villages currently. So we understand that for us as in the West, the importance of being able to preserve that, because we need to be able to tap into their knowledge, their understanding. So what Projects America is trying to do is make sure that that culture is maintained, but also trying to revitalize that culture. So a number of projects which Project America focuses on, including traditional farming projects, water well restoration, traditional temple restoration. Also, we have a children's project that we're running at the moment, which is which you heard an advert right at the start of the show, which focuses on children who've been through the initiation I mentioned earlier. And we're the aim of the children's project is to enable those children to attend what we call Western schools. So when they finish in the Western school, they have the ability to interact with the wider society, a bit like Master Naba did in terms of going to traditional schools and being able to speak to people from the West and give them information about what it is to be a traditional individual within traditional. So that's the aim of the children's project, to give those children an opportunity to go to Western schools. So when they are interacting with the wider world, they have the ability to do that and speak from that point of view as well, in terms of being able to demonstrate their culture. The Project's Merit is also the arm that is focused on pilgrimage. So once a year we have an annual pilgrimage to Merita, which we were called the beloved land for that area, which is commonly known as Africa. So that is an opportunity for initiates and non-initiates to go to Merita and to spend time with traditional family and people, to see the traditional up front and live the culture. So we understand, yes, we get the culture through the classroom and the knowledge through books, but actually going and living the culture, speaking to other initiates, speaking to priests, etc., that's how you kind of grow as an individual and an initiate as well. So that's also part of what Project of Merit does in terms of ensuring that the pilgrimage is organised on a yearly basis as well. So that is a bit of an overview of the 3 arms.
Okay, Lawson, are you going to give like the contact details?
Yeah, I can do, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as mentioned earlier, we have 2 temples. So we have the London Temple, and we are based in 21 Sunnyside Road, which is in Leighton, and the postcode for that is E107BB. And the telephone number, if you do want to contact us there, is 0208 558 3678. I'll just quickly repeat that. So that's 0208 558 3678. And our sister temple in Coventry, their address is 18 Biggin Hill Hall Crescent, Coventry, and that's CV3 1GS. And they have 2 contact numbers, which is landline, which is 024 76 26 6859. So just quickly repeat that. So 024 76 26 6859. And a mobile number, which is 073 05 995 944. So that's 073 05 99 5944. And our email address, if you would like to contact us by email, is inquiries-uk@theearthcentre.org, and centre is spelled CENTER. And we're on all the sort of social media platforms as well. So if you have a look, and you want to connect in any way, you can have a look on there.
It's just the main website really that they can get through, and then they can navigate to wherever they want to get to from there. Go off for that then. So at this juncture here now, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be coming over to KaSheta, and you can do your little piece now, Dwell.
Okay,
Can
so
you hear us?
again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's great to be back again. And I also would like to express my gratitude to my ancestors, to all of our ancestors, and to recognize the divine world in this time and space. Right, well, it's been a full-on week, this week I want to talk about something a bit different, and it's about the language that we use, the English language and buzzwords. All right, so I don't know how this is going to go down, but I hope we do get, some people calling in, because I'm interested in opinions on what the subject is about. So I think I'm getting a bit of feedback.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Right, so there's words that I've noticed that are used over and over again, and I believe that words, in the English language, are used to control our thinking, because when our thinking is controlled, our thoughts are controlled, our actions follow suit. Right, so I wanted to speak a bit about like buzzwords. Right, some people might not know what buzzwords are, but basically, like in the early 2000s and throughout around about a 10-year period, I would complete funding forms for community organizations, and I soon learned the power of these buzzwords. And one of these words was cohesion, right? So if this word was used in the application, opposed to just saying we're applying, to assist to raise unity in a community, which is basically the same thing, the use of that word, cohesion, could be the difference between a successful, application form or not, And I remember that I had never heard that word before, but all of a sudden, it was a necessary word to be used over and over again in that arena, So looking up in a dictionary, the definition of a buzzword, and it says that it's let me see now, an important sounding, usually technical word or phrase, often of little meaning, used chiefly to impress laymen, So anyway, I have another word, and I wondered if our listeners have ever heard, in the recent past, over the last few years, the perpetual use of this word, misogyny, or someone being misogynistic. Have you heard that word like recently being used over and over again?
Um, yes, I have. Yeah, yeah, I've had it. Yeah, quite recently. Yeah,
Yeah. Like for me, before like 2018, I'd have never heard of the word before, but lately I've noticed like in the news broadcasts, like political debates, red table talks and all, those kind of things, it's used over and over again, so I had to look up the meaning of the word, to satisfy my curiosity, I had to do that. So the first thing I did to research was, how old is the word? You know, how old is it actually? And I found out, according to the English dictionary, this English word, misogyny, was, now I've got to quote, was coined in the middle of the 17th century from the Greek word meaning misos, meaning hatred. And the word woman is placed beside that word in the Google dictionary, right? And going by the graph I found, since the year 1800, the word was really used and not in everyday language at all. And it only became popularized later by feminism in the 1970s. Right, so the dictionary definition of the word misogyny means hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against women. It's a form of sexism that is used to keep women at a lower social status than men and is said to assist with maintaining the social roles of patriarchy. Okay, I'm just thinking that somebody's phone making that noise.
Yeah,
Right,
that was,
so
yeah, that carry on. That's okay. Yeah.
right, so opposed to the word misandry being the hatred or contempt or prejudice of men, so a misogynist has a profound hatred for women and not only believes in sexism, but carries it out in their everyday behavior. They blatantly disrespect and abuse women as their norm. So then I had to look up the difference between a misogynist and a chauvinist and found out that both concepts involve negative perception about women. However, unlike the behaviors of a misogynist, chauvinism doesn't necessarily involve underlying hatred or disgust for females. Chauvinism stems from a sense that males are or feel superior to females and believe that women are naturally weaker, less intelligent, or otherwise less able in some capacity compared to men. So someone with chauvinistic beliefs may still enjoy being around women and may act protectively towards them, out of the belief that they, someone that they need to provide for or protect. So I couldn't just leave it there. So I had to look up the difference between a misogynist and a sexist. All right. So I've done a lot of research on this word because this word is so new to me. So a misogynist can be an extreme form of sexism. These two terms aren't always interchangeable, however. Misogyny is a dislike, as I said, of contempt for or prejudice against women, whereas sexism is discrimination or prejudice against people of the opposite sex. So anyone can be a sexist if they discriminate against the opposite sex, right? So misogyny is hatred and discrimination specifically against females. So we then ask ourselves, can women be misogynistic? And the answer is yes, women can be just as misogynistic as men when they have a feeling of superiority towards other women, and contempt for common female behaviors and male dominated integrated beliefs and so forth. Right. So before I go on, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are with me. Did you want to add anything at this point?
No, this is interesting. Continue. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to say?
Right.
no, no,
Me
go
digging
ahead.
into this
I'm just
in this English dictionary. All right. Right. So according to the same source that I dug up all this information from, we can ask ourselves what can be the causes of misogynistic behavior. And I found that misogyny isn't a mental health condition. It is an attitude and a belief that may involve complex underlying factors such as core beliefs, cultural norms, and childhood experiences. So upbringing is a cause. And we know that much of our learning during childhood is mimicry, so which means if we're exposed to misogyny in our household as a child, we're more than likely to grow up, and behave like this as an adult. Right. And then they came to I looked up and it came to like the religious constructs. Some religions such as those founded in Christianity, teach that women came after men, was made out a part of his body, and was created as his companion to be under his care. So this framework may be sometimes perceived as implied inferiority, you know. So along with, you know, the belief of some religions that women, you know, ushered in sin into the world, religion could contribute, you know, to a negative bias, you know, against females, which in turn can be, you know, related to misogynistic behavior. Right, then lastly, then I read that emotional abuse and domestic violence related, you know, to this type of upbringing, you know, in that type of environment, you know, is also linked to misogynistic, you know, culture and hostile sexism, as well as violence against women. You know, so culture and gender norms, you know, where women may often perceived as inferior, you know, is an influence to this type of misogynistic behavior. And it was that statement that got me when it was talking about cultures, you know, because what I see in this society today, like from what I've researched and from living in the environment that I live, I'm often informed that traditional people treat their women badly, you know. They say that traditional women are downtrodden, overworked, not valued, you know, and it's only here in the West, you know, that women are treated equal to their men because, you know, they stood up, you know, they burnt their bra, you know, they have equal pay, you know, they even have to pay child support if they're divorced and the children stay with the father or the father's family. So for me, I'm asking the question now, how can men and women in any society be equal? You know, it's like equal to what? You know, personally, I can see obvious differences between men and women. For instance, men can't give birth and women can't impregnate. You know, so I have questions for discussions now because in initiation, we're taught that in traditional Africa, be America, men, women, children, you know, all of them know their role as a human being. From birth, they're taught their place in the family, community, and society. You know, there are specific roles for men, fathers, women, mothers, the children, grandparents, and even for the family members who we're taught to refer to as aunts and uncles in, you know, in the Western system. Right, so my Hatamis, you know, I'm opening up the space now for debate and questions, you know, for your input and for audience participation. The question is, who really executes misogynistic behaviors? Traditional people or the system of the Western world, you know, that had need to create this word since the 1800s, you know? And I look at this as a buzzword. What do you say?
I think one of the one of the things I would say, just listening to those definitions, I think it kind of it's one of the things I think we speak about in initiation about the English language. It's very kind of it can be different meanings for the same thing, and it can be meanings that can be interpreted by somebody else in one way. It can be interpreted by somebody else's, and it can get your head turned inside out. And I think because when I'm listening to them definitions, they're all on a bit of a scale, you know, in terms of it's the same thing that they're talking about in terms of like men not liking women, but they've kind of graded it in certain ways where you have sexist, you know, so that's a certain behavior, chauvinist, that's a certain behavior, misogynist, but they're all doing the same thing, yeah. But they've just made it that there's a different level. They see it as a different level. That's what I'm taking from what's been said. So that's one thing I think it's important to kind of maybe just to reflect on in terms of just the language that they use and maybe why they use that language, because there's always this, because I think when you hear the word of misogynist, that instantly conjures up something in your mind, bit more than someone just being a bit sexist, you know, but really it's the same thing, because we're saying that for whatever reason this particular man or these particular men don't like women and they're doing these actions or behaviors to kind of
dumb them down,
to keep women, from their point of view, to keep women in a certain position, and they'll do these behaviors or whatever to say, or language or whatever they want to do as a way of saying, we see you in this way, we don't see you on the same level as us, we see you down there, or we want to keep you there, or whatever and they'll use those things. But so for me, that's an interesting thing that maybe we don't have time to talk about today, but I think there is something about the language and why they're using certain words and why those words are attached to certain people or certain individuals. Yeah, that's my first thing. But I haven't asked you the question yet, so maybe I'll think about come back and I'll come back to think about your question.
Okay, so for me, it's like I see it this way. When you say that, is it a learned behavior? It is a learned behavior because we can see it, and it is a cultural thing as well. You make mention there of traditional family values as opposed to or compared to Western values. We see that within the traditional, yes, there is a structure there where each family member, children, grandparent, mother, father, there is no competing for those roles. Everybody knows the role that they should be playing. So there's no need for a man to want to be a woman to want to be a man. You know, as you said rightfully, a man cannot have a baby. What's the point we're going to be arguing over that? It's accepted. So what was allocated was the mother had her role, the father had her role, and so on. So we understand that in the tradition also, it said from the woman perspective, so the man is the provider for the family, first of all, and the woman is the nurturer, for the family. And so those roles are given, they're designated really to those people because women are better nurturers than men. Yeah. Now, what's happened is that the society basically, when we look at, say, the tradition, although a woman plays the part in the home, she also can have her own business venture going alongside being a mother within the home. You know, there's structures there like having a carer or a worker, or what they call them, a maid, that would help to assist in the home to do certain works and chores that needs to be done. So that would free up space really for the woman, that many women did have their own and create their own businesses. And as we said, what was the man belongs to the family, and what was the woman, her own resources belonged to her. So within that culture, we see that there was the women still had a part to play for the family and for herself. What we see here is in this Western society, as you said, you mentioned it, they had to burn their bra to get like equality. So you can see the mentality and the mindset has always been against the female within the Western culture. And so it is a culture and a learned behavior, and I would accept that, yeah. I don't know if anybody online would probably want to participate and share their views as well.
Yeah, thanks for that input, both of you. Very interesting. I do hope some, maybe some females will call in or something, because I believe that this word is like, it's used to like manage people's mindset, And as we said, in tradition, we knew our place already. Everybody knows what they're doing. So it's only recently when so they created the word. So therefore there was a need for the word in this society.
Yeah, but as Etepi said, they're really right. It's basically doing the same thing, isn't it?
Different levels.
Yeah, just different levels of our people. They like to break things down and put people into little boxes, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a hatred against women, where in a society where it's still left that, or still said that women can't do certain roles. There are certain roles and jobs and things out there that is interchangeable. You know, so there's no doubt, really, right, that in some cases, women are probably better in some of those roles than men. But I think what we see in society is a fear of the women probably coming over and taking over their jobs. So it's best we keep them out of the picture. And so, don't you believe?
Yeah, I think that is it in a nutshell for me, because I think, as I said right at the start, you mentioned about misogyny. Is that something I've heard recently? And I have heard it. I haven't really kind of engaged in it, because it's one of those things. I've heard certain individuals being called out for being a misogynist, and I've heard this particular individual, I ain't going to go to the name because I don't know, I've not kind of followed anything he said, so it's not right for me to say anything, but I did saw a little clip about him, and he was arrested, and there was like a little article, a few little interviews, and suddenly he was going to be almost like the poster boy for all these young men to have all these misogynistic views and kind of hate women, etc., and it's like, really, it's like, because that's, like you said, it's always been there. It is kind of prevalent in the society. It is kind of how this society functions. So yes, someone might come up and have a particular view of women, but that's not like he's kind of like leading it, because it's already there. So it's just almost like it's almost like igniting it, just to say, okay, it's a spark, because it's there, ready to. You can see it in everyday life, in terms of how certain men interact with women and certain men have views on women. It's there. It's not anything that's kind of disappeared or been eradicated. It's there, and it's kind of like it's always there under the surface, like many other things. So yeah, I think it is one of those things that it may, as we discussed earlier, it may need like another, it may be a topic we can maybe bring back, and like you said, KaSheta, it may be that we could get some sentees on as well, alongside yourself and myself and Hattini, just to kind of bring a better balance as well, just to kind of talk that through. But yeah, I think it's a definite something to revisit again, I think.
Yeah, because why would society want to push an agenda like that when, within our own families we have male and females? So I just don't understand the psychosis behind that you're discriminated potentially against your own children by having such a view, depending on where you fit into society, isn't it?
Yeah, but a lot of these views, a lot of these views are kind of almost like there are a lot of men who want to be able to do what they want and not have to kind of answer to anybody, and that's on all levels. So if a woman's kind of wants to challenge them in that they see challenging them, they're going to kick back against that, because it's almost like, why are you telling me? Because I want to be able to do, and that's across society. A lot of men just want to be able to, whether it's about your race, your gender, your class, etc. They want to be able to do what they want, say what they want, and act how they want. And if someone's going to say, pull them up on that, they're there. So that's where I think part of it, for me, a big part of it comes in, is that there isn't that kind of appreciation that actually you're sharing a space with somebody, and someone might have a different view to you, and you should be able to say, okay, let me hit. But a lot of men don't want to do that, and that's where I think the issue comes, that men just want to be able to do, a lot of men want to be able to do what they want, and not to be able to put their hands up, or even say, okay, they don't want to be able to do that. They don't want to have to do that, should I say.
So will you say there's an ego there, in the sense that we're more than you, we're better than you?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I personally think so. I think there are a lot of a lot of men who don't, and this, I think it goes across the board. I think there are a lot of men who kind of don't want to.
Views on this. I know somebody's trying to call in, because I got a private message, so I'm not sure if the studio phone's working.
Tell them a call again.
Ask them to call again, please, because
they can call again. Because of things on.
Okay.
They can call them.
Okay, but yeah, I respect your view. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that we're trying to figure out this.
Yeah, I do think that the English language, as I say, is like, it's very confusing. Words are used over again, meaning different things. So you could never really get to the point of what's being said.
EJ.
Greetings. System.
1 second. Yes, 1 second. Let me just see if we can get you logged on. 1 second.
Try to push that through. Try that one. Try. Oh, is it no port?
Okay, 1 second. Let me see. EJ, because we don't seem to have a port to get you in. But if would you be able to come through on the Google chat? Would you, if we give you the link to that? Yeah, because I don't think we'll get you on. On live, if not. Okay.
I'll send the Google back to.
Yeah, just send. Yeah, if you want to send a message in, and then yeah. But Dwell could call him as well. Dwell.
Are you gonna do that then, Senji?
Yeah, if you're speaking to my sister, if it's the same person, I'll send her the Google chat.
Yeah,
link.
she said she'll send a message in, but it'd be nice if she was able to speak as well, because she obviously had something to say.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. I'll just mute for now.
okay.
Yeah, and while our sister come back there, really, as you said, it's quite an interesting kind of topic, really, because you know, that's always been out there, really, isn't it? Inequality, sexism, prejudice, racism. These are all kind of prejudice and things that's coming through in society that needs to be addressed, really. And you know, most of us who've got children and things really would like to know that within society that your male child and your female child have same opportunities, especially like in a time where we see so many one-parent families, and women are having to go out there and be working and competing against men for jobs, for wages, to support their families. And so, you know, there is an entitlement, really, that if they put in the labour and put in the work, in that, yeah, they should be entitled to equal wages and opportunities within that field or industry that they're in. And you know, as we said, we see that in racism, you know, where just through the colour of your skin, again, you know, you're not paid what you're worth. So, you know, personally, from that aspect, I can understand the pain that a woman goes through when, you know, you're treated as second rate. Because it is, isn't it? You're giving your all and you're getting less than what your counterpart is getting. You know, when you really look at it, you know, you're sacrificing your family. You know, and we see, like, to the detriment oftentimes where children are coming home with no parents there to answer to. So, you know, once you make that decision there, you know, then yeah, you'd have to go along with it. Sorry, this message here. Sorry. You know who you spoke to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. We can carry on. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, so as we said, I think it might be something that we revisit, and because it is a really big topic, and I think it's something that as initiates, we, as much as we have division within initiation, so we would have obviously the sentees, so the females within the initiation will have meetings together, and as men, as men initiates, we would have meetings together, and then at times we will come together to have those kind of conversations, but it's good to have those of opportunities to have those kind of conversations, because they are things that we, as much as we're initiates, we experience when we're out in general society. We'll experience the kind of the issues, and we try and handle them as we've been taught in initiation, so we try to handle them in those ways, but there are issues that are always coming at us that we have to face, so it's a good opportunity to have a conversation, a dialogue about these issues, and to further it as well. So yeah, definitely something to revisit again.
Okay, and well, for that, Sen. At this stage now, right, we're going to play you an intro, Janine, the artist, and this would lead us into, it's called, was it called Humble Me? Yeah. It's by Janine, and
just a grow and the bliss just a show, and a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know, and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. There is so much to fear, they say, so many unknowns. There are those who would scorch the face face of the earth in a selfish game of thrones. Some have learnt of the mysteries and are forcing the world to comply. But give thanks, the source of the sacred is encoded in when I tune into the frequency. None of the stains of adversity distract from the real I know. Of the power I'm connected to. Yes, it just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show. And a humble me more and more. The more that I learn, through the little that I know, and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. When I tune into the frequency, none of the stains of adversity distract from the real I know. Of the power I'm connected to. Yes, it just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show. And a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know, and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. I used to be so sure of things, then life began to change. The world becomes a smaller place, an overcrowded stage. Ambition is the overkill, but I am not its slave. So I take away to take a breath and fit how I behave as I let go of the expectations. I start to feel everything go dark. A newfound sense find its activation, blazing wildfire from my heart. One night ignited, finds its way, and everything following is even greater. All I thought I knew melts away when play becomes creator. It just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show. And a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know, and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. More and more.
Going into our topic area, which is our topic. Well, we're going to get a nice little series running for the next 4 weeks or so, and it's basically on the principles of spirituality, and within our initiation. Yeah, within our initiation, we have these principles that we, as initiates, that we try to develop within ourselves, and humility is one of those principles. And so that's what we're going to be covering tonight. Hopefully try to just, just get some idea of how important it is to have humility and to humble yourself. And so we're gonna introduce our guests tonight. And Ujai Sen, Biksaa.
Hello.
Ujai, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah. Ujai, and welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Nehibsa.
And I'm here to you.
And our guest, our host presenter online is KaSheta. And so we'll be here trying to interact.
Ancestors, all of our ancestors, with whom we wouldn't be here individually and together. So I'd like to acknowledge those, and also the divine world. For the divine world came before us and created the amazing existence, universe that we get to benefit from, including the earth. Mother Earth I'd like to acknowledge, as we get everything from Mother Earth, from the cradle to the grave, and the land that we stand upon. And also I'd like to acknowledge Master Nabala Musambara Nessebik, the founder of the centre you've spoken so well about. My name is Biksaa Nessebik. I'm a brother to Nehibsa there, who's I graduated with or did the initiation with in London a few years ago now. I think it's 5.5. We've been around 5.5 in these 6 years on this path. What's that? Is that about right?
Yeah, about 5-ish, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, so my name is Biksaa Nessebik, and Biksaa really is the Bik meaning the child of Sa, the Neter Sa. The Neter Sa is the god of good fortune, which is really about sort of good timing. We say, we're in good luck when things come together, the synchronicities and everything's working and flowing, and we sort of seem to say we're in bad luck when we, miss things or miss the good timing, which is a bit of a laugh, seeing as I was always late when I was a child. So I'm here to learn the powers and the principles of that Neter, which also include protection, which I now really understand to be the protection from nature and sort of living in harmony and in synchronicity or well with nature. So yeah, that's my name. What else would you like to know?
Sorry, son.
Yeah, what else would you like to know?
So Biksaa, so you've told us what it actually means. Yeah. So what was it that put you on this path or on this journey of spirituality to end up here in the Earth Center? Just give us like a brief kind of overview of your journey so far, please.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up for the most part south of London in the countryside. We had our family went over to North Africa, Algeria actually, close to the Sahara Desert, for a couple of years before coming back. And so, I got both an appreciation of being in nature, and when I was in Surrey and Sussex, but also got sort of an idea of the world being a bigger place than just one set of people, one land, one environment. I just got an understanding. It sort of opened up my world, if you like. And so going through life, school, and then studying and then going out to work, I just started asking some questions, seeing over the years, I started to see how almost like the more successful you got, in terms of materially, the cars and the houses and the TVs and that kind of stuff, and even traveling around the world, on holidays or whatever, it seemed to me that the world, we were also at the same time destroying the nature around us and our environment, and there, big questions over climate change and all that kind of stuff. So just started me thinking, how is it that I'm actually impacting this, and what can I do about it? And I think at the same time, I started to look at, as many as people do, what's the mean, why are we here? And eventually I sort of came across some of the Eastern traditions, meditation and consciousness, and, thinking of the whole, being harmonious with the whole, but also the idea that we're not just material, there's a non-material part of us. And, be it a spirit, soul, whatever we want to call it, consciousness. And, where does that come from? Where does it go to? And how do we take care of that part as well? And if we've got a non-material part, then I came across, energy healing, which I worked in for quite some time, and realized that everything as an entity, there's a non-material part, the trees, the mountains, the earth, so we're in amongst this amazing universe of forces and energies and spirits. And I guess the question I was asking was, well, how do we how do I fit into this harmoniously? And instead of destroying it and myself, and therefore humanity doing the same, how do we, kind of fit into the order, into the harmony? Because there is a harmony there. We just seem to be destroying it rather than, being a favourable part in it. And then I realised, reading books and Googling and, and even, having some practices like meditation and those sorts of things. Traveling around the world, I realized that there are some people as in cultures, that have retained that ability to do that. And I realized I had to try and find them, to spend time with them, but also to learn from them, because I wasn't going to get that in any form of Western education or philosophy or mentality or whatever, because it just seemed to be trying to dominate over everything rather than humble itself in a way. So when I eventually came across African spirituality, after going east and west, east to the sort of Asian philosophies, and then into the more shamanic, South Americas, and then coming back to the Celtic over here, which is the pagan, and spending time with that. I eventually came across spirituality down in Gabon, and then in West Africa with the Earth Center. So it was a long journey, but I realized when reading about the Dogon, and particularly Nessebik, that there was an ability to connect all the aspects, the earth, the ancestors, the divine nature, and really bring it together in a what's the word? KaSheta uses the word cohesion, in a cohesive way. So there's many, constructive forces, but there's also destructive forces, and they seem to come together. But how do you really understand that? What are the principles there? And coming across Master Naba's work and the Dogon work and the Kemetic, background and principles that they're all from, which was the sort of highest level in a way that the humanity has seen. It was like, okay, now I found my teacher. and I found the teachings, and they're being able to be expressed here in the UK, and not go, for I don't know, a year or 10 years into some Himalayan or um, mountain range with a single shaman or something. But there were schools and a whole community that was being or growing. And so that that made sense to me.
So in terms of acquiring this knowledge, though, how this help you fit in within your own family and within your community that you survive in or you exist in?
Well, I do.
Put it in a mild way.
I do. I actually came across the Earth Center in Ibiza, funnily enough, and I was there was a retreat, a 4-day retreat down there with a number of indigenous elders. I think there were about 40 indigenous elders and 250 like Western seekers, and so I came across the Earth Center, who did a series of talks then, and coming back, having learned 1 or 2 languages and some different traditions, I didn't really want to go and go back into a whole new set of understanding. But when I realized that the initiation was over a year, it was rigorous and week after week, etc. It was time for me to really do it properly, I felt. And how did it fit with family? Well, at the time, I don't think many people looked and said, "Well, what are you doing going into this? It's African tradition. You're not from Africa, or you don't have African heritage, and yet we all have, So it's like, if it's got the principles there, then and there is a school there, it was like right now, I have to really make that important, and it's not about what other people are thinking. They'll if it's what it is, if it says it is on the tin, then it will speak for itself. I'll help to evolve myself and understand things better, and gain the balance, gain the energetic harmony, and that, and over time, it's up to others to really see that. And so over the years, not everyone, but people have come round and understood. It's a way of life, which is aiming at being in harmony with all, and so there's nothing to fear from it. In fact, the opposite. It's something to be embraced, and if other people take different walks of life, then we can embrace that too. So yeah.
And basically,
and I do remember, turning up at a cafe which our school was having lessons in at the time before we got the temple down in London. And sitting with our generation, our group, and thinking, okay, what am I doing here? And I'm sure a few others were thinking that too about themselves, and and me. So yeah, but it's been great. It's been amazing.
I mean, outside of this, how do you compare what you was learning before to what you know now in those different other experiences that you have with different groups of people? How has that complemented you in what you know now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I've appreciated all the different. I've been very eager to. I've been very hungry in my life to learn. Very thirsty, if you like, to learn. That's got its advantages and disadvantages. I had a very, very big bookcase, which was very heavy and and full of different avenues and different types of areas, if you like, of life. And I think, and so I've appreciated many of them. I think many of them also took me down dead ends, cul-de-sacs or dead ends. So they didn't necessarily all have a basis in a way of life of a people that have retained and preserved that way of life. That takes into account, as I say, those different, connects the dots with how the ancestors sit with the divine world, how the divine world sit with, the earth, how the earth sits with nature. It kind of, it all, there's a logic and a functioning that can be explained without high terms and university or academic terms or theory. It's all been worked through over thousands of years and retained. And so I think the level of, or the depth of which 6 years in, we're still tapping into. Like we've gone, from the Pet Ankh, which is the first stage of initiation, and now we're in the second stage, which goes on for the rest of your life, which is all in a Shifi, and there's 9 different degrees of that, and so, but it's all just, it's accumulative. It deepens the level of understanding of the universe and how we fit in the material and the non-material aspects of it. And I've never got to this level, or I've never come across this level of rigor or understanding in the paths I've been on before. And there's been some great teachers, and I'm really grateful, and I acknowledge all of them for what they do. Some of them have personal gifts and those sorts of things, which as you come along, you can't replicate necessarily that. But when it comes to our teachings, we're opening up both the gifts that we personally have and come with into this world, material and the non-material, those that are held in our blood, those that are held in our blood with our, on our mother's side and our father's side, all the way back, the divine aspects of those, but also our, clarity of mind, our cleanliness of heart, our, the different aspects of, our makeup, our constitution. And so, we're building rebuilding or reconnecting to our spiritual heritage as we go. And so we can all play our part in this mission, in this way forward for humanity.
You're currently situated at the Coventry Temple, aren't you? Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that and how's things going there.
Yeah. So just shortly after we graduated, we went straight into teaching, assistant teaching, and then teaching. And we, the temple up here in the Midlands, the second temple, was being moved from Birmingham into the ancestors in Meritar, in the temples, and the divinities made a decision to move it to Coventry. And so I made a decision to come and support that, and continue then to really share this knowledge and help to establish the temple here in Coventry. And we're now 4 generations later. We're growing step by step. So we have a lovely group of initiates, and we have a temple here and a school with the vegetable garden in the back and the chickens, and we're based on the outskirts of Coventry and Binley. So it's close enough to the centre. Compared to London or Paris or other places, we're talking 5 minutes from the centre in an Uber, from the centre, and 7 minutes if there's traffic in the mornings, So it's really a different environment from London, and we border, Coventry's within distance of Birmingham. We have initiates from Birmingham, we have initiates from Nottingham, initiates being students. We have students or initiates from Manchester, Walsall. So there's a sort of series of towns around and the countryside between where our initiate base comes from.
And when would your door be open again for initiation? Have you got any idea about that for orientation?
Yes. So we have monthly open days, and we have a different program of events. We're just redoing the program of events now. There's talks and that sort of thing which go on throughout the year. The next doors of initiation are likely to be opening in July, August time.
Okay. So for those who are interested, or that side of the country, up the Midland side there in Coventry, or near there, if you're interested in initiation, that's going to be like, if you're that side, a location where you can actually get into initiation that way and get exposed to some of this information, this knowledge that we're trying to disseminate. Okay.
There's a couple of other things. Shall I mention those now or later?
Go ahead. What is it you want to say?
There's an outdoor festival that's coming up just outside Coventry in Philongley, called the Pagan and Witches Festival. It's a lovely event. Just started up last year, and there's more than 100 different stalls, and there's all sorts of workshops and events going on throughout the whole weekend. 6th and 7th of May. And it's at the Heart of England Conference and Event Centre in Philongley, and so we'll be there throughout the weekend, and we'll be doing talks on reconnecting humanity through the spirit of nature. Mm-hmm. So really, how do we replant ourselves back into nature, to become favourable with the sort of the universe and nature and all of that. So the higher orders, basically. So so we'll be there. Look forward to seeing those that can make it too.
Okay then. So we're going to come back to the interview there, right? But we're going to go into a little bit into this topic area. As we said, our topic tonight is going to be on humility, and we're going to do a little reading first. Oh, sorry. There's a message that needs to be read out. Yeah, we'll do that first, and then we'll.
Yeah, so we had a message. Well, we had a call a little bit earlier, and unfortunately they weren't able to come live. So they have sent a message. So I'm just going to read the message out. So just bear with me. So it's great. It says, "Greetings. Would like to first hail up Sister KaSheta, stroke warrior queen, for an excellent topic. Thank you, sis, for all your continuous hard work that she does in our community, tirelessly and selflessly, and also like to thank her for bringing the misogynist topic up. I've heard this word many times over the past 2 decades or more. It is more intense version of chauvinist. It is used in the Western culture by Western women who believe that they are held down and held back by men. We do not have such words in our culture, as we never saw men as trying to hold us down or back. We both knew our specific roles and we're happy with them. For example, if a man is waiting for his dinner, we did not dare think he can get it for himself, misogynist, chauvinistic, so-and-so. It was our pleasure to serve a man. I wish I could say more on this topic, i.e. the differences in culture, and how contemporary feminist theory also destroyed the relationship between black men and black women. Sister Kemet Imani."
KaSheta, sorry about Biksaa. Yeah, just see if KaSheta, would you like to respond to that?
I didn't really catch all of it. It's like it's going in and out. So I assume you're reading out something that somebody sent in.
Yeah. Yeah, because we couldn't plug her in at the time in the system there really, right? So she sent a message. So this was like a gap where we could have just read it out. So
Okay, so I didn't catch all of it, but the main things that I did catch, I agree with. But at this present time, I don't have anything more to add.
okay, yeah,
Right.
you know, she's quite right what she said though. It was a quite constructive message, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I do want to thank the person.
Yeah.
I think it's Sis Kemet that sent it in. Much appreciation for her participation. And taking the time. Joel.
Yeah, we echo that as well. Yeah,
definitely Dwell.
yeah. So on that note, then, we're gonna go back to this topic, and we're gonna read from the philosophy podium. What would you call it? An article from Master Never.
Yeah, just a chapter from the philosophy podium.
Can this come down? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go over there. So it's from the philosophy podium, and it's chapter 24. So society's individual destruction, the seeds of demise. After serious observation of the human history for millennium by every honest observer, without any desire to favour any part of the world or disparage any other part, the conclusion still holds. Kemet is the cradle of humanity. The existence of humanity knows only one name for what is favourable for the whole of human existence: the territorial Kemet, the philosophy Kemet, the metaphysic Kemet, etc. For the history of the genealogy of the pharaohs, one observes that for millennium, the lifeline of a humble farmer was as simple as a lifeline of the highest clerk. I can't go any higher. Speak up in voice. In the society's social hierarchy, the most important change has happened only recently, and this concerns the attitude that one should adopt towards the principles of life. The human is born from parents who he or she did not consciously choose. One finds oneself in nature with a life that one has to protect, yet with the same time one ends up losing. One ultimate search is then for the real face of life, and the principle of spiritual honesty is the objective of human conquest according to the philosophy education of Kemet, African temples. Every individual is an incarnation of the infant god Heru, Horus, born of an orphan from a dead father and a mother who is comforting and encouraging. The concept of the posthuman love and the conception of the posthumous life to reinforce the mystery of life and the holy aspect of its principles. For more than 75,000 years, the Kemetic temples have taught this principle. To humanity. On the social side, Kemetic education discourages the human tendency to attach oneself to pleasure and vices. Wusa and Osiris, in his teaching, insists that humanity should be protected from the human ego. The world is a strange place full of labyrinths and traps. Death is our home. This world is the first step in our initiation into life. When we die from this world, we are born into other world, and the individual who is attached to pleasure and vices acts if he or she has forgotten that this world is just a passage. A human who is attached to pleasures and vices is like one who refuses to go forward, who refuses to go towards the future. The human who is attached to pleasure and vices is like one who takes the whole of life hostages to his own image, seeking to promote and maintain it. The gods of the temple of the Nile and the Niger Valley wanted to protect us from the nightmare of this life. For millenniums, all temples have encouraged humanity to fight against egoism. Despite wars that they have fought to protect the world's peace, pharaohs led a humble life. The world order has changed only when the Nile Valley was invaded and an ancient Greek proclaimed himself a pharaoh. He named himself Sammenkosis. Sammenkosis intentionally and actively encouraged social degeneration. For Kemet, gold was always considered the body of the gods and respected as such. Sammenkosis ordered that, commensurate of gold, alcohol was served only for spiritual and religious ceremonies, and wine was considered the blood of gods. Sammenkosis ordered that the extension of the vineyards and the daily consumption of alcohol, etc. The understanding between gods and humans quickly deteriorated. The Romans added a new god they created, coming from nowhere and claiming to be unique. Humanity, already corrupted and haunted by the idea of being rejected by the gods because of the corruption of their own spirits, jumped at the chance to proclaim a supreme newly created god who doesn't ask for much more than to be recognized and worshipped. Since then, the world has degenerated. This is the seed of destruction planted in the spiritual domain to corrupt and destroy humanity.
Well said. Yeah, as you can see there, ego plays a lot in terms of our behavior as human beings. And society actually promotes egotistic behavior. Yeah, sorry. So our topic, like I said, we're going to be looking at, humility, what it is to be humble, to have humility. What part does it play in our life? How does it aid us, really? What are the negative and the positive aspect of having humility and to humble ourselves when we see that within society? Basically, it's creating people or us to be individuals, and it's that dog-eat-dog situation, right, where whoever's on top of the ladder looks down on those below, and we can see the rife, the hurts, the discontentment really amongst people, really, like it just because of the have and have not. So if you don't have anything, then you're worth nothing. And this is the mentality, the mindset, this individualism that society is putting out there, and it's creating those barriers. So first we're going to be looking at the different areas of how humility impacting our lives, in relationships, work, even in initiation, how humble sometimes you have to have humility. In our families, we can see that amongst our children, the way that parents are parenting their children, we can see like how important it is, to have that humility, so that your children and things can learn from you. You are that example to them, so you have to demonstrate to them what it is to be, to be humble, not because your parent really like that you have power over me, so you've got to exalt yourself. So there's a lot for us really to kind of to look at in this topic here. Biksaa, you're going to be coming in and just break down for us really that word humility. What does it mean? So we'll start off on that point there.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, KaSheta, she was looking at the word misogyny and, and looking at the derivation that, where does it come from and has it built up? So when I looked at this, because humility doesn't really have anything in it to explain what it is. So we kind of learn something of it as we grow up, but, there's no basis in the word in a way. The Cambridge Dictionary says the feeling or attitude that you have no special importance that makes you better than others. So, the misogyny thing of thinking men thinking they're better than women, comes to mind there, or race, any race or nation thinking they're better of another, that would be the opposite. So, so not thinking you're better than or others is really what this is about. But it comes from the Latin word humus, meaning earth or soil. And you think, well, how come? How can that be? I guess humulus means low, as in on the ground. Humilitum, humble. So to be humble, to bend or to kneel or to bow. So it's really just lowering your height, to be in line or to be, at the same level as others and not thinking you're better than others. Low to the ground, low to the earth. That make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go one step further then. Why then do you think we need to have humility in our life? And was that said? Biksaa?
Yes.
Yeah, I was posing a question. Why do you think we need to have humility in our lives?
Well, the first thing for me, you if you want to learn and to grow, you have to understand that there are aspects of life, aspects of the universe which you don't know. So you first of all got to accept that. And I know, in the past, when I've learned things, I think I know it, but you only ever know it when you apply it. And so, to go from not knowing something to understanding it, then to applying it, then to mastering it, takes a big journey. And humility is really not thinking you're better than or you know it, in order for you to have the space to learn and to grow. And for me, one of the main things about this being one of the five, only the five principal characteristics of spirituality, is the fact that we're not, particularly now, but this goes back into the mystery schools of Kemet too, is that when you come in as a child into this world, we need to regain things like language. We need to regain things like how do we fit into the family, as what was being spoken about earlier on. How do we fit into the roles? Yeah, how do we fit into the culture, depending on what that culture is. But then we have a sort of second stage after that, which is then going into initiation, where we really need to learn how to fit into the bigger aspects of the universe, the non-material, the earth, all of these, the ancestors which are within us, in our blood, the divine. So we're really regaining an understanding of that. And that's vast. And so there's an awful lot to learn. We don't get a chance to to really learn any of that or much of that with our Western education. So for a Westerner coming into the mystery schools, coming into the spiritual understandings once again, we have to really humble ourselves, and almost allow what we've learned to date not to get in the way of learning the deeper aspects of the universe. So it really does open up our world again to something that we've been limited to, our limited understanding of what the universe is. The material side, the houses, the cars, the food, the nature being, what the trees and the grass and the plants are, the things that we see, the things that we can touch and feel, to understand that there are deeper dimensions behind it that are all interacting, and those forces are all alive and imposing themselves, and having a function, and so it's opening up our worlds to that. So that's why I would say it's really important to have that, to walk with that humility.
So you're saying that again, it's going to be for us to humble ourselves, to know that we weren't the creator of this existence, and there is a lot that we don't know, and we just got to admit to that, really, right, and fit into that nature there, to try to learn more from the nature, as what our ancestors or from the ancient Kemetic people did, in having that humility to humble themselves, to know that, as we would say in the initiation, the human brain doesn't have the capacity to invent what it's not being exposed to. So, we have to look toward what was there before and admit, right, that we didn't invent all the things in that humanity has claimed. Like you look at something like the aeroplane, we had what they call like the Wright brothers to claim that they invented the concept of flight then, but that was already there. The birds and everything, that part of creation, the aspect of creation was already there. So we've got to... Sorry? Sorry, did you say something?
I didn't know.
Yes. So we've got to kind of humble down to that, to know that nature has provided us with answers or to questions that we don't know the answers to. And we have to, as I said, acknowledge the ancestors, acknowledge the divine world, and look towards those two dimensions, really, right, for a lot of answers to our question, and just humble ourselves that we don't know. Just say that you don't know. But what we see in society is that they like the guessing game, and we can see, like, since the invasion from the Western world, that since they've taken over, there is not much that they've actually done to say that they've actually contributed anything in terms of going forward with humanity. And they won't humble themselves to say that they actually learned from what they would deem as a primitive set of people, and to concede and to humble themselves to make such admission, really, we can see how far they would go to into plagiarizing, doing all the things that they've done to take a credit over what was done before them. You want to say something, Sam?
No, well, just to go back on just something Hattini said about the just the West, and kind of when we live in the West, or when we live in the West and we come into initiation, we have to kind of empty a lot of the things that we've learned and just humble ourselves in that. And I think it's one of the things that when I was looking at this subject and trying to get an understanding of like humility in this society, we don't really have that many examples I can think of humility in this society.
Within society,
we don't
you don't see nothing out there that's demonstrating that.
No, you don't see anything. I can't bring to mind anything that I can say, oh, there's an occasion where humility is recognised, or it's kind of put somewhere in society to say, yeah, this is an example of humility. I can't think of one. Even when I looked up on just the word and just different images and different things, I couldn't see anything. And it's interesting, like you said, that this society, it runs on opinions and it runs on that. And I think the idea of humility is, I could be wrong here, but it's my interpretation. It is seen as a bit of a weakness in this society. Yeah. I think it is. I think it's, if you're a humble person or you show humility, it's not recognised, but it's seen as a weakness. It's seen that you're kind of a meek person or someone who's kind of a bit soft and someone who can be easily trodden over. And I think that's probably maybe why we don't see it that much, because it's not what this society wants to project out there as how they function and how they operate.
So it is a strength, like, you know, I have all the power, I have more power than you, that kind of thing, really.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm just thinking about it. I think it's what they want to project out, isn't it? They want to. The West wants to project that, like you said, that they came to Kemet, they got a bit of knowledge, but they don't want to they didn't want to take the time of kind of like keep returning to Kemet, to the initiation camps, to get the full range of it. They got what they needed to. They felt they wanted to, and then they ran with that. Yeah. So they didn't have, even then, they didn't have the humility to stay and kind of get the full range of what the actual initiation gives to individuals. They took and thought, right, we've got what we need now, and then we'll go out now. Yeah. And I think that's probably what kind of permeates, isn't it? That they just feel part of their way of being is that we don't need to kind of look back, or we don't need to kind of reflect on anything. It's just we've got all we need, and we've got a way of working with that.
As we say, really, like humility is one of those virtues, really, isn't it? That you something that you learn. You can learn to have humility, you know, to humble yourself. And even within the initiation, Biksaa mentioned about teaching, doing the teaching. In that requires you to have a lot of humility in being able to say, okay, you know, you're standing in front of a group of people. Their expectation of you is that you probably know more than them, but not necessarily. We might, you know, there's certain times we don't know everything, and we're learning ourselves, even as teaching within our assistant teaching, as some of us are doing, and those who are full teachers. And initiation is one of those processes about having that humility to be able to can say, I don't know, you know, and I'll have to ask someone else to get back to you, and just humbling yourself. And is that feeling of, by you saying I don't know, there's some people that might take that, make themselves look stupid or inadequate, but it's better you say you don't know and you don't give out wrong information, and you know, there's still that level of respect for you, that you're humble enough to say you don't know. And again, as family, within the family structure, as parenting, really, I find that where we would probably have our children and things like that, and you know, they would ask a sensitive question sometimes, difficult, simple question that children would ask, but as parent, not oftentimes we have the answers to them, and some parents will make it up, just to say, well, okay, you've got an answer now, go away, work on that. But then, in honesty, if you don't know, one of the biggest kind of humility that you could have is to say to your child, I don't really know. You're also teaching that child, you know, to be honest, and you know, to be able to say, well, okay, they also can go out there and research and look up. Just give them that more emphasis to go out there and research and find out more. You know, you don't know, so you can go out and look for the answer there now. But just humble yourself in the process of admitting that I don't know, rather than trying to, you know, give the impression that you know it all. None of us could know all there is to know in one lifetime. So there are going to be a lot of things that we have to accept that we don't know, and be honest with ourselves to say that we don't know, you know, and the fact that our children, right, can teach us as well, because it's a two-way process, And if you think of the logic in it, you send your child to school to be better than you,
So when they do come back with something that you didn't know, you have to humbly enough, really, right, to listen to them, really, right, and say, okay, I'm not wasting my time and money sending you there. You learned something, so we can share something with each other. And I think a lot of parents, probably feel inadequate in certain way by saying to their children they don't know. And also we see that the way that society again has made a lot of these children believe, right, that they know more than their parents. We're in an era, we're in a stage now, right, where more of our children are going to university, getting opportunities that our parents have never had. And so now it's like they're coming out of uni with their degrees, no experience, just something they probably learned on the internet, read in a book, yeah, and they think that they now know more than their parents, but they've got no experience or anything like that to know what they were taught. How did they evaluate it? How did they validate it now? So they have to be humble to know really right that as much as society might kind of reward you and amplify you and big you up to say that you're more qualified than your parents, humble yourself that you don't have the experience. When you come out of school with your qualifications, your employers are looking for experience that you don't have. So humble yourself really, right, and learn from those really, right, who have the experience, who can take you to that next level, right, to know. Yeah. So we see really, right, there's having humility, as I said, is and being able to kind of to see yourself equal to someone who might see themselves as less than. It opens up that door for that society to kind of to bridge certain gap, for you to fit in to your community more, to fit in with people more. You're allowing them space to grow. We're not building dams like I'm better than you, so because I know more than you, you're nobody. But we've all got something. We're all given a gift. Have something that the next person don't have. We're all individuals. We've all got our own personal gift that we have. It's just for us to recognize it and to use it to the best of our ability, and not be intimidated that because someone is a doctor and you're just a carpenter that he's more than you. We have to compliment each other and respect each other. That's to me, that's one of the part of the humility that we have to have with each other. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to. It's not so much of a question to Hattini Biksaa, but more of a, if he was able just to give us just a bit of insight, because obviously Hattini Biksaa has been to Merita. So he would be able to give us maybe just a bit of reflection in terms of how it functions in Merita, in terms of the priests, etc., in terms of how they function, in terms of just how they function in terms of in relation to the subject we're covering this evening.
Jason, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, thank you. So I guess the first thing is to say there's an expression which is an elder sitting down can see more than a younger person standing up. And I think when it comes to like learning, the cultures that have really elevated to the point where they're not only functioning as a human society well, so there's respect, there's ability for everybody to function, to grow from the youngest baby through childhood, through adulthood, into becoming an elder, in the communities, and retain the culture that allows them to be in harmony with each other, with other peoples, and to learn and to from each other, to learn from those other people, but also to sit within nature and live sustainably. And when I say the nature, it's not just the physical part of it, it's a non-material part of it too. And find that balance, you know, in that nature. So, you know, we can evolve rather than destroy the environment, destroy each other, destroy, you know, life. The Kogis, interestingly enough, from Colombia, when they took themselves up into the mountains when the conquistadors went over there and destroyed much, like 80% or 90% of their people. They took the remaining and they went up into the tops of the mountains and stayed there until maybe, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, out of the way. And when they came down with a message which was, you're the younger brother, meaning the Western people. You're the younger brother, and you now need to listen to the older brother, you know, who has understood, you know, they've got a message that you need to stop destroying each other and the world, and you need to wake up. And this is the thing, because you know, those elevated cultures that live in nature, with nature, for nature, that have learned that harmony, they've learned it and put it into the culture itself, so that you know, issues can get resolved. You know, they can listen to the material and the non-material parts, the spirits, the entities that will come and destroy if there is an imbalance. That they will come and disturb and create problems, you know, be it physical problems, be it, you know, mental problems. You know, there's an ability to work with, you know, the humankind in that way if we're getting out of kilter. So it's interesting when you go into the culture, the traditional culture in Merital, there's a great respect of the elders. But the elders are not the ones that are very loud or, you know, having all the sort of smart fancy clothes or the smart fancy, but they're very humble. They have a very simple life. They're listening, they're watching, and helping to maintain that culture of harmony. And so they're often the quietest ones. They're the ones that are, you know, serving, or that when you arrive, they'll, you know, come and help you with their bags. So, you know, you wouldn't know that they were the ones that hold the highest levels of understanding of the culture and of, you know, what's going on materially and non-materially, until they then sit in their role or their position where they're, you know, conducting the ceremonies, or they're, you know, they're giving the wisdom, you know, or sharing it. And so, you know, I've seen, but a lot of it's in the culture itself. So when people arrive at the villages, for example, you know, there's a whole procedure of, you know, who gives them the hospitality, how it's given, you know, where they sit to acclimatize to where they're coming. They may be with a problem. It may be, you know, a problem of, you know, someone's done something to someone else, you know, that younger person or adult even will have a representative of an elder there too. And they will sit down and the elder will speak. You know, there's a whole sort of way of working through these complex or difficult scenarios to maintain the balance and maintain the harmony.
Wow, Anthony.
And we see, I mean, we see in this modern Western society how basically people are encouraged just to be themselves. And this is one of this thing out there, isn't it? You can be whatever you want to be. And so we can see where I'm promoting this selfishness really within, you know, that it's just me. The world evolve around me. You know, I can do whatever I want. I can be whatever I want.
no one can tell me what to do. And so what we see there really, right,
This what is this age of kind of entitlement. They go to school, they believe that the world should
revolve around them. And if they don't get that attention, we can see how many times they go into tantrums, things like that.
Well, the way that
The society is pushing people. We're seeing a lot of these I can't even say the word now. Narcissistic behaviors within people, yeah, that is spiraling, right, where this selfishness, this ego, this is all about me. I don't care about anybody else. To thrive in the workplace, they encourage you stepping on each other. There's nothing about being humane to each other in looking out for your fellow brother. Let's rise together. Humble yourself.
This is why in the philosophy, in the reading there, when it said, even the farmer, what was that called? They said even the farmer was with. I thought they'd find that quote. That was an interesting bit there. So even the Pharaoh humbled himself, as do the farmer. So it's not about how much you have.
It's not about how much you have that's going to make you better or think that you're better than someone else. It's about how we deal with people, how we deal with each other. Take time
To consider really right that it's not everybody wants to be rich,
and that richness that's going to define how good or how better you are. It's not about that aspect of life. It's about how we see each other. How can we help each other to go through these times where society is making us all be individuals. Literally, we see the pandemic, how easily society or people were controlled, how people were
basically encouraged to turn against each other. We saw a lot of that, the us and the them, if you're not vaccinated, you're a part of them. And it's this kind of lacking humility I can see there really, right, where people were supposed to have choices, but those choices weren't respected.
I think it's as I said earlier, this system doesn't demonstrate anything related to humility. Well, what I can observe anyway. I can't observe humility within this system. But I think it's an interesting, just reflecting on it in terms of, because when we started this, well, let me just phrase. When we did this, we were just looking at the principles of spirituality, and it sounds quite a nice topic, and but when you really, even when we're reflecting on it now, you think about it, kind of those principles, and especially this one we're talking about, the ability to, the humility you have to do to go through, one as initiates, to go through and come into initiation, humble yourself, one to come in, to kind of almost be humble enough to kind of accept new knowledge and kind of accept that you may have not known everything you needed to, and then you get through that, you get some knowledge, and how do you then kind of express that to other people? Do you kind of suddenly think, oh, I've got this more knowledge, so that's so again that's kind of a continue kind of having to humble yourself, but just that kind of that having humility to be able to go, the need to have humility to go to the divine world, that is quite a big thing when we think about it. To have that a key aspect of spirituality is humility, because you have to be humble to be able to go and in front of the divine world and in front of your ancestors as well, and say what you need to your ancestors to say, I might be struggling, I might need this. And you know that's humility. Every time you go into your lamentations, every time you go into your lamentations, you have to
I need help.
Exactly. So it's kind of, as much as we've done the topic, it's kind of, when you really break it down, it's kind of a really big topic, isn't it?
It is a big topic, because humility plays a huge part in our life, in so many different areas in our life, in our relationships, within the family.
you know, we oftentimes we might see one person wants this to happen. It's all about him. There's nothing about what's better for the whole family structure itself, you know. And this is where we see where that breakdown comes in, because it's all about me, me, me. No, us. As we said in the tradition, right? It was about the family. It wasn't about the individual. It was never about the individual. It was about the coming of that new ancestors, so that the focus was humbling yourself and generate and put into that ancestor the things that it needs, yeah, to help him to elevate, to evolve into that what they want, what the level that they're trying to reach. Biksaa, anything to add on to that?
I think I think you're right that, you know, children are brought up these days in a way, and this is a big generalization, of course, but there's an expectation that, you know, they'll get everything or get it now, and they want it now, and, you know, things are speeded up a lot, and, you know, with TV coming along and the marvelous things that, you know, that children will see on films, and we see them all the time, or a lot, but children, you know, are placed in front of those, you know, amazing things that happen on Disney and all of that, and I think the more we're in this screen world and observing the non-natural things, the easier it is to not be humbled. But when, for example, you know, start gardening, or, you know, planting, this is the season for planting, weeks too, when you start to do that and get and you know, put those things into the earth, really that's what we, you know, that's our part. It's a very small part in the growing of a plant, the growing of the vegetables, the growing of, you know, whatever. The nature does the rest. You know, we the earth does part of it, the water does part of it, the air and the heat from the sun. We just put our finger in the soil, make a hole, and put the seed in there. You know, and then the rest happens.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we realize that, you know, life goes on without us, how do we, you know, we suddenly start to realize that there are bigger forces at play, and how do we learn about those so that we don't get in the way of breaking them down? You know, and I think the closer you are to nature and living a simple life in nature, the more you realize the miracles and the magic, the majesty of, and the genius of that. You know, and then it's easier to be humble and to observe. In initiation, we talk about, you know, to look, learn, and listen. One of the things that you do see when you go over to Merita, to the villages, etc., how stable the children are. How, and when I say stable, from an early age, they're observing, they're watching, they're learning, they're growing at such a rate. They're absorbing. Now, that doesn't mean they're not running around as well with each other and having fun and all of that lot, because they do a lot of that. But when the adults are around, when there's something to learn, they really stabilize themselves to watch and to pick things up and to know there is an order. And there's a great respect for elders. So the 7-year-olds will learn from the 9-year-olds. The 9-year-olds will start taking responsibility to pass things down to them. You know, the 13-year-olds will be passing things down to the 9-year-olds. You know, the 20-year-olds will be passing things down and teaching the 13-year-olds. So there's a great respect for those that come before you. You know, all the way to the respect that you give to your ancestors. You know, for everything that they play in your life, and the messages, and the opening yourselves up to all the messages that will come from them too. That's what I'd just like to add.
Well, KaSheta, have you got any contribution towards this topic as a mother out there? What kind of humility did you have to show within your family?
Um,
Um,
yes, Jay again.
what do you say?
Yeah, humility, as you say, it's a big subject, and I think having humility is strength, is a strength.
Okay, yeah,
Learned a lot about it in initiation. Didn't really think about it much before going into initiation, and we find that as human beings, we're all opinionated. Everybody's got, an opinion to share and so forth. But whose opinion are you actually sharing? Because everything that we know, we learned it. You know, so as human beings, we're not really that great, within ourselves, because what I mean by that is, like, another thing I was taught in initiation is, like, the human body. We hardly do anything to stay alive. All we need to do is put food inside us. you know we're not in charge of our digestive system. We breathe in. We don't control our breathing. So the fact that we're here, we should have humility to know that we're not that great. There's outer forces, other forces that's keeping us going. And humility, it could be brought by any person, at any time. Like Hattany Biksaa said, you can learn from a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old. Me personally, I came into initiation late, so most of my Hattanys are a lot younger than myself,
yeah,
and I sit down quiet and I'm taking it in. It's like, if you don't have humility to sit down and learn, humility is one of your best teachers, because it's like, enables you to accept that you can be wrong, and that's where learning takes place. Another thing I learned in initiation.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I think
yeah,
that was a part of what I was talking about within the family, that where parents allow that child to make mistakes, because that's where they're developing,
yeah,
and don't think that you know it all, or don't give them that opportunity to grow.
hmm
You've got to leave that door open. You don't shut that door on them. You're shutting them down.
yeah,
You're stupid. We make mistakes. Humor them.
yeah,
Teach them. You know,
yeah,
if you feel that they're lacking in something, then be that example there and say, well, this is how you do it.
mhm,
you know. But you have to be able to kind of say, with my children, when they were younger, I used to say to them, if you see me do something wrong that you don't like, tell me. Because if I see you do something wrong that I don't like, I'm going to tell you. So I kind of left the door open that,
yeah,
I am going to make mistakes in my life. But I have to acknowledge as well that my children, they're looking and they're learning from me, and they're going to see these things. And if they're not able to express it, then it's that superiority. Oh, well, I can't talk to my dad, I can't talk to my mum. So, where they're going to go after that? Outside of the family.
yeah,
So for me personally, I felt really right that at that time, no, I can learn from you as you can learn from me. And if we try to maintain that balance, then we can harmonize
yeah,
with each other, and hopefully we learn and grow with each other. But it's not about,
yeah,
I'm your father, I know best, I know everything. You don't know everything. Humble yourself to recognize that you're still learning as well. And that's important. That
it's a
you
kind
can,
of self-respect as well, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
respect for others, having
yeah,
respect for yourself, to know that you can sit down and listen and learn from anybody and anything. Everything's a teacher.
yeah. I mean, uh, there's that quote. You want to read that out, Biksaa? It's better to be.
Don't have it in front of me, actually.
You don't have it? Okay, then I'll read it out. This is something that we learned in the initiation there, basically, and it's what it's saying. It's better to be humble than smart. It's better to be humble than charismatic. It is better to be humble than to be popular. Yeah. Humility cannot be faked for long. It's one of those things there that is one of those virtues that is authentic and hard to fake. So, you know, as I said, we just have to humble ourselves really and put ourselves really and know our place within this world that we're living in. We can see, you know, as Anthony said, he can't see anything. Metepi said he can't see anywhere in society where they demonstrate humility, and as we said, like that's the problem. You know, they've taken control of the world, and they've waged war against nature, against every different areas within the scheme of where we're living, and they're destroying it. But they're just not humble enough to say that they've got it wrong, and they now probably have to go back to what they would deem as third world knowledge, because it was the third world, which we were the first world if you really look at it, because we came before them or existed before them. That they have to go back. You know, and in one of Naba Irita's writing, they said humanity or the Western world has waged war with nature, but what they didn't realize was that was the biggest mistake that they could make, because nature gives us everything. You know, it's giving us the food, the hair, everything. When we came into this world here, we didn't come with a suitcase really, right, packed with all of the utensils and everything we need. Everything was already here. You know, so humble yourself and respect it. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just sitting here thinking and just reflecting. I'm wondering whether, like in our system where we live, and I'm just formulating the thought. I'm wondering whether the further we get away from nature, the less humble we become.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like I think Hattini was saying there, in terms of what we have around us in the cities, etc. It's so disconnected from nature, and I know we do our gardening, so we do get in touch with nature, but on a 24/7 we're not living in nature, are we? So I'm wondering, like, the further we are away from nature, the less humility we actually demonstrate. I don't know, it's just a thought in terms of.
No, but it's an interesting point, because we see, like, even within our food, how they're playing about with our food, trying to create and go against that natural order. You know, because what we can create this, we are gods within the, you know, and this is the persona that they put across really, right, rather than humbling themselves, which within the indigenous communities, this is what they did. You know, they respected the nature around them, what was that was above them, and fit into that, which is what gave them the answers to a lot of their questions, right? Which they were then able to achieve the achievements that they've made, because answers were given to them through their humility, you know. Yeah. As we said, as teachers within the Earth Centers, there, that's, you know, we that's one of the prime principles that we would have to demonstrate. You know, didn't really know how deep this word is, or that quality is, but the more you look into it, you know, you can actually see that, wow, you know, the lack of humility within ourselves and within our society, within families. Yeah. So. Let's see. Biksaa. Said?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Having to do your as the running the temple, yeah. in terms of humility within yourself, how much humility that you have to show really in order to get that word, was that coherent word to be cohesive with you? How easy or how challenging was that?
When you say running the temple, what do you mean
In
by
terms
that?
of teaching and kind of share the information that you've been given, and getting the best um, from the at my heats, and being able to, as you said before, like humble yourself to know that that was given to you is for you to pass it to someone else, but we're not actually better than nobody. We're still learning within the process. How was those challenges for you? I'm trying to. Yeah. I don't know if you get.
Yeah. So what we're taught in the three different disciplines that we learn in the House of Life, which means the House of Life, which kind of gives you everything that you then are able to be reborn into life once you're given your earth name at the end of it and take your vows, etc. You're given everything you need to be reborn into life, to go forth and live a harmonious life, but also one which allows you to move towards achieving your destiny, what you come here for. So I think I mentioned earlier, it's like you're picking back up all of the spiritual heritage, all of the things in the non-material, which are going to help you in order to move forward to achieve what you've come here for. So you mentioned, it's better to be humble than popular. We're not here to come into this life for a popularity contest. It's actually, we're here to come and do something, to learn something, to grow, to, whatever it is. And so given all of that, in Per Ankh, as a student or an initiate, it's a lot. And then to come and pass it on, which is what we're also, in the culture as a way of life. You don't just learn something and hold it onto yourself. It's really about passing that on, particularly if it's knowledge, if it's been proven to have universal truths and to help, be in harmony. So to hold all of that and then to pass it on in the best way you possibly can, but you're never going to master that, it's going to take a lot of time. So, teaching one generation, two generations, three generations, four generations, we're still learning on the way. And, I even see with my teacher, Naba Irita, one of my teachers, Naba Irita, Shanmira, teaching the Shifi, you hear how he evolves as a teacher too. You see how he is able to get concepts across, in a way, sort of 3, 4, 5 years later. It's like he's not stopping growing. It's not from a script or what have you. So, yeah, it's very humbling because the knowledge is so deep, and every person in front of you is unique. Every spirit that comes is unique. Every generation is unique. There's a different set of challenges, and as you grow, you're going to be challenged in life. You're going to be challenged in whatever role you hold, whether it's a parent or a teacher or just a Kemetic man or a Kemetic woman. You're going to be challenged. So yeah, that's very humbling, and it's humbling every time you do represent a way of life that's been in existence for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and we're just relearning to walk with that and to stand upright in front of nature again, and that can be to anybody, whoever comes. KaSheta, you said you can learn from anybody, and you should respect everybody. Whether it's an elder, whether it's a child, whether it's whatever sex, and whatever social standing or whatever. Everybody, as he said in there, is a lifeline. The same lifeline is with the humble farmer to the high clerk, in society. We're all human.
Okay, do son. Yeah, we're gonna. Let me say, teaching is a very humbling experience. Very humbling, and it's only when you go through that motion that you realize how humble you have to be. Yeah, because there could be a lot of ego there. You think that you know more than the people that you're trying to convey it to. So you need to humble yourself. That as well as you're giving out information, you're also learning from them as well. And my experience in even doing the assistant teaching, that was the humility that I had to have, really, to know that even words and things that they would come out with, I didn't know the meaning of some of them. So yeah, so it was humbling that you could then ask questions, really, to say, well, what does that mean, or go away and look it up, and just to get an understanding that we're all at different stages in our life, and I think if we can respect that, there is still much more learning and things that we can do to develop ourselves, and not try to elevate and put ourselves higher than where we really are. Just be yourself, but have that humility when you're just trying to be yourself, because society is saying just be yourself, just be whatever you want, and so, but the examples that they're given there are destructive ones. And in initiation is one thing that we're taught, that, as we said, we don't have the capacity to invent, so we're learning from each other. And so the difference is now is that who is your master's master, and where are you getting your qualities, your principles and your values from, to say, well, be yourself. And I think that's where we're kind of we're failing in societies, that the values where they're coming from, we've been misguided, so people believe really right that probably in some cases they're doing what is right.
You want to give it up?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to give. I know it's something when we were talking about this, I was giving an example of something I'd observed a couple of years ago now. I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago now. So I think it was in New South Wales in Australia. I could be wrong. I can't remember if it's a state, but there was they were having a number of bushfires, and they were encroaching on people's lives, etc., etc. And they were trying, as a state, they were trying to quell the bushfires. They were trying everything to quell the bushfires, and they couldn't quell the bushfires. So when I was reading, I can't remember if it was an article I was reading or a video I was watching, and there was someone came on and made the comment and said, well, why don't this particular state, why don't they go back and speak to the indigenous peoples, they call the Aborigines, but we'll call them indigenous people, to find out how they dealt with bushfires, because obviously these bushfires have been going on for generations upon generations, and they must have experienced it, and they must have had a way of dealing with it. And I think actually Hattini, Biksaa, updated me, because there was one state that kind of did, but that was my when I heard that, I thought, really, that should be your first port of call. People in that area have been there 200 years, 250 years. Yeah, so they've been there 200 years, and then there's indigenous people who've been there 40,000 years, not 70,000 years, who've been dealing with this issue with nature, just in general, for how many generations. So they must have some knowledge for them to still be there, to still functioning. So why don't you go to them and say, well, how did you deal with this? But it took but it took a lot. I think Hattie Biksaa might be able to update us, but it took a long time until they actually went and sort of said, what do you know, what information do you? And I think that's just an example. That was an example when I thought about humility, because that really, if you were humble as individuals, that would have been your first port of call. You'd have said, okay, well, we don't know how to deal with this. Who does know how to deal with this? Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and that was, coming back from where in society, where are the examples of humility that's been demonstrated by our so-called leaders, the people who are guiding us, when they're too arrogant to say, well, this third world, this primitive person is going to be the one that's actually teaching us, and so they will go all the way around just to say, to give you any accolade or acknowledgement that you pose or have the answer to their questions, to help them to solve their dilemma, the problem that they're actually going through. Anyway, we're going to be coming up to the end of this program here, and next week we'll be probably looking at the topic, what was it, strength?
Honesty.
Huh? Honesty. And we'll be having back on the program Biksaa, and he's going to be sharing with you life amongst Nebfest and KaSheta, myself. And so hopefully we can come back and, just share with you on that topic area.
Yeah. But I think it was good. I mean, as we said, right, we've obviously been doing it for an hour and a half, and I think it's probably something you could spend a lot more time on. Humility, it's a big topic, and the more you think about it, it's we've just kind of touched the surface this evening. I suppose it's an opportunity for people to reflect, really, isn't it, in terms of how they're demonstrating humility in their lives, and for us as individuals, how we're demonstrating humility in our lives.
Well, I think our main aim, though, is really right for us to try to start to look at ourselves and start to see then, if we, be more forthcoming and honest with each other, and so, those honesty will get changes, because when you're honest with people, the chances are you'll probably get back an honest response back from people. And right now we're living in a world, of deception. It's what you can get away with, and that's how we're taught, really, kind of to be with each other. And we see that there are a lot of misinformation put out there, like social media, internet, and things like that, where a lot of people will be misguided. And we know that, as we know, we spoke about the Dogons. Who are the Dogons? We, show you that these were the people that actually migrated across the Sahara Desert to preserve knowledge, right, that they've obtained over thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. And so many answers to questions that we don't know are there, sitting there. It's just through the lack of humility, that makes us stop us from, or them from, solving some of those, or getting answers to some of those questions. And so we just want to kind of say, I want to acknowledge my ancestors. I want to acknowledge the divine world. I also want to acknowledge Bless for giving us this space on Bless FM, so that we're able to kind of share amongst with you from Earth Center some of what we've been taught, and from a Kemetic perspective, how we see and view the world through initiation. I'll just give Biksaa a final couple of minutes, or whatever he wants to round up, and just say whatever he needs to say on this subject, and just sign up. So, Sen, Space is yours.
Yeah, no, I'm really just to say thank you to you all for inviting me on the show. And I just want to acknowledge all of my teachers, in London, the Biksaa generation, who taught me as I came into the Earth Centre, and those that have held the knowledge and the culture so that it can be brought out now, and help us to get back on track. So, yeah, I'd like to acknowledge my parents as well, and my family, and the ancestors. Go on. Which means thank you.
Yeah, no. KaSheta, sorry, you just want to give the last few words before we sign off?
Yes, I'd just like to thank the Bless family and Bless, and all the listeners and everybody that contributed. It's an honor always to be on the platform, and it's also an honor to share it with Hattanis. So, du'a for that. Again, to recognize my ancestors in this time and space and the divine world. And du'a, the subject was deep. I'm still thinking on it now. Even though the show's come to an end. Humility is a deep thing, and grateful for the teachings. So to all my teaching Hattanis and all the Hattanis at the London Temple, I'm grateful for you guys teaching me. Well, okay. Hirihiru.
Okay.
Very good.
Same.
Do announcements.
You want to do what?
Do announcements. Yeah. Okay. So just gonna finish off. We do have a lecture at the London Temple, and that is on the 29th of April at the Temple. So that's 21 Sunnyside Road, E10 7BB.
Yeah.
And that's starting at 6:30 on the 29th, which is a Saturday. So it is at the Temple, so we can pay on the door, which is £7, and also is available online as well. And the topic of the lecture is the origins of holidays. Origins of holidays. Yeah. So that's an opportunity for any individual who's interested to come along, hear the lecture, but also meet other initiates within the Earth Centre as well, just to find out a bit more about the Earth Centre, what we do, and also if people are interested in some of the publications that were mentioned earlier, it's an opportunity to come and have a look at that as well. So as I said, it's on the 29th of April. If you want to find out more, there is information on Eventbrite, so if you just type in the Earth Centre onto the Eventbrite site, it should come up in terms of the lectures, the upcoming lectures, and that's the next one in terms of the 29th of April. Okay,
that's it. And so for again, if you're interested really like in initiation, as Biksaa was saying, the Coventry Temple will be having their orientation probably coming up roughly about June, July. And so the address for the Coventry Temple is 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, Coventry, CV3 1GS, and their phone number is 024 7626 6859, and the next number is 0730 5995 944. That's for the Coventry School. And for our London Temple, if you're interested, really our doors for initiation is closed now. But for events, oncoming monthly events, lectures coming on, you can contact 0208 558 3678. That's for the London school. So on that note, I just want to say dua to my ancestors, dua to the divine world, dua to Bless, and to all our listeners and all those who contributed in the show. Dua and Iriru until our next preview.
Dua, Iriru.
So we're gonna rewind and come again.
heights just a grow and the bliss just a show and a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. There is so much to fear, they say, so many unknowns. There are those who would scorch the face of the earth in a selfish game of thrones. Some have learnt of the mysteries and are forcing the world to comply. But give thanks, the source of the sacred is encoded in I. When I tune into the frequency, none of the stains of adversity distract from the real I know. And the power I'm connected to, yes, it just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show and a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. Distract from the real I know. Of the power I'm connected to, yes, it just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show and a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more. I used to be so sure of things, then life began to change. The world becomes a smaller place, an overcrowded stage. Ambition is the overkill, but I am not its slave. So I take away to take a breath and fit how I behave as I let go of the expectations. I start to feel everything go dark. A newfound sense find its activation, blazing wildfire from my heart. One night ignited, finds its way, and everything following is even greater. All life long and new melts away when play becomes creator. It just a humble me more and more. The heights just a grow and the bliss just a show and a humble me more and more. The more that I learn through the little that I know and it humble me more and more. The truth set me free and encourages me as it humble me more and more. Humble me more and more.
Double-edged sword. He's the double-edged sword. He's the key to unlock the treachery. Follow truth and you shall find him. He's the definition of humanity. He's the beginning and the end. He's the prophet now. Far away, from far away, from far away, from far away, prophet Naba, far away, Musa, far away, Nebfest, far away, prophet from far away, prophet Naba, far away, from far away, from far away, prophet from far away. Bob Marley says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy. 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophet while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got it full, Come to my head, 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 come. You got your own told story. Come from far away, from far